My name is Ron Griffin for artificialanimation.com, and this is version 2 of the tutorial Windows 7 customization and Rainmeter setup. In this tutorial I'll be taking you through how to get your Windows 7 base installation looking, well, hopefully as close as possible to what you see now. Now I want to say a few things. The version 1 tutorial I made was pretty successful, and that's the reason I'm making version 2. A lot of people have a misconception about version 1. What actually happened was the author of the chill visual style for Windows 7 decided to completely change all the links and basically change how the chill theme looked in general. And I had provided a link to the DeviantArt page and not a direct mirror, so I ended up being sort of screwed over, and everyone was sort of going around screaming. Here's what some people had to say. So after I was done cutting myself and crying in a corner, I decided, hey, why don't I make a version 2 if there's enough demand? And surely enough, there was quite a few people who said, I really want a version 2, and, you know, can you teach me, blah, blah, blah. Here we are. Before we start, a disclaimer. This is going to be modifying Windows files inside the Windows folder. Windows never intended for you to modify any of these files because it can potentially break things. That is why I recommend to back up, and if you are looking at the time and the length of this video and saying, oh man, this is going to take too long, I don't like this, then you probably shouldn't be doing it at all, because you need to exercise sort of some level of care when doing this, because it's not great if something goes wrong. So now there are a million different ways a system can operate, and when I say that I mean there's a million different methods of firmware, hardware and software together. You could have a Norwegian, a Swedish, a Japanese installation of Windows 7, and something could potentially break because these files are meant for the English version of Windows 7. Now, it could be that they work just fine, but what I'm saying is most people it'll work, but if you are one of those people that it happens to break when you try and install something, or something goes wrong and you've tried very hard and you've looked at this tutorial and you've said, well, it just doesn't work, then go ahead and shoot me a message and I'll be more than happy to help you out personally and try and get your installation to work properly. If you ever run into a big problem, something is obviously not right and you need to revert back to where you were, there's a command. If you go to Start, search CMD, right-click Command, Run as Administrator. There's a command, it's called sfc/scan now, all one word. This scans the whole Windows directory and the whole Windows hierarchy, and it checks for the integrity, and if the files are not the original, it'll actually go ahead and re-download the file from Windows, and it'll put it in there so that it sort of reverts the changes of any of these files that you modify. And if you ever find yourself, God forbid, stuck out of Windows and you need to get back in, something's completely broken, use a Windows recovery disk or your original Windows 7 CD, or boot from USB drive, burn Windows 7 onto it, boot from there, find the repair option, and then find command prompt and type that command that you see on my screen right now, which is sfc/scan now. All of this will be in the description, so yeah. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not responsible if anything goes wrong, and this is sort of more on the advanced side of modifying your system files. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is download the stuff in the description. I've set a row of links in there you'll be able to see, and I want you to open the Tools folder. Now in step 1 there is a universal theme patcher. Before we go too much into this, I want to make sure that you're on your administrative account and that user account control is off. How do you turn that off, you ask? Go to Start, Control Panel, User Accounts and Family Safety, User Accounts, and at the bottom it'll say Change User Account Control Settings. Click that. And here you'll have this notify bar. Drag it down to Never Notify and then click OK. This basically makes your Windows assume that you know what you're doing, so it won't prompt you every time you do something that it sees as potentially harmful, or you know, something that could change something inside the file operating system. So you want that to never notify. If you're not confident with that, you can change it back afterwards. So click OK, and then we're good to go. So into the universal theme patcher. Now another thing we need to get out of the way is we need to establish if you're on 32 or 64-bit. As you can see here, universal theme patcher x64. Basically, all you need to know is x64 equals 64-bit. x86 equals 32-bit. So to find out which one of those you're on, go to Start, right-click Computer, Properties, and then in here it'll say System Type 32-bit or 64-bit operating system. So keep that in mind. You need to understand which operating system you're on. If you're on 32-bit, use the x86. If you're on the 64-bit, use x64. I'm on 64-bit, so I'm going to right-click x64 and run as administrator. Here you'll get the user interface language prompt. I'm going to choose English. And on this page, it'll say Windows 7 Ultimate Edition 64-bit Service Pack 1. That's my build. For you, it might say 32-bit Service Pack 1. Just make sure you have Service Pack 1 installed before doing any of this. This OS needs to be patched. This OS needs to patch 3 files. 3 files has been patched. 0 files need to be patched. Now it says 0 files need to be patched because I've done this already. But either way, click yes, and then you should see 3 DLLs: Theme Service, Theme UI, and UX Theme. Click Patch, 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 and then restart your computer when it prompts. Just close it and restart your computer. So hopefully you've restarted your computer and you'll come back to this tutorial around the 6-minute mark and we'll continue. So assuming you have just restarted your computer, this is great. We can now go ahead and install the actual visual style. But before we do that, we need to add something to our registry. So again, in the tools folder, go to step 2. There's a file called, there's a folder called Take Ownership. Go in there, and you'll see an add.reg and an undo.reg. And what this does is, if you click add, when you right-click on things, you'll have this option, Take Ownership. And when you click Take Ownership, it will basically assign that file to your user account, and you'll be able to move that file, rename that file, delete that file, do anything with that file much easier. Windows won't come slapping you in the face saying insufficient permission. So double-click on this add.reg, click yes, click OK. If you want this gone after you're done with this, you can easily just double-click undo, but it's a very useful tool, so it's completely up to you. Now, back to our chill theme folder. This is what we want to open next. So open the chill theme folder. First of all, we're going to go into the chill VS folder. And here we have a few files. And these are going to need to be put into our Windows folder, resources. So go to Start, Computer, find your installation folder. So in my case, C drive, Windows, and then R, resources, and then themes. And what I want to do is I want to take these 4 files, Control C, Control V. Just move them over. That's all that's needed. So it's going to ask me to overwrite, but hopefully it won't for you because you've never installed this before. Anyway, now that they're moved in there, you should see Chill 3D, and the 2 theme files. Now we're going to go ahead and start replacing the actual Windows files I was talking about earlier. This is where you need to follow along carefully and understand which operating type you're on. So if you're on, again, if you're on 64-bit, it's x64. If you're on 32-bit, it's x86. So inside your chill theme folder, you should see integration x64 and integration x86. So for me, I'm on 64-bit. I'll take x64. If you're on 32-bit, take x86. So go in there, and you'll see 2 folders, System32 and SysWow64. If you are in the other folder for 32-bit, you'll notice you won't have the SysWow64 folder. Don't worry, it's absolutely fine. It just means you don't have to rewrite or you don't have to overwrite those files. So just follow along. In either case, it works just fine. So click System32. And here we have a few files, and I just want to say before we do anything more with these files, if you want your Control-Alt-Delete and your start and shut down screen to look differently, like this, then you can use this auth UI.dll. If you absolutely don't want that, then simply don't install this auth UI.dll. Okay, so we're going to start installing these DLLs. So go into your C, Windows. I'm going to press S on the keyboard, go to System32, here we are, System32, pop in there, and then we're going to look for ActionCenter.dll, which you can see this is the first file we want to replace. So down here, ActionCenter.dll, and what we want to do is we want to right-click, take ownership, right-click, rename, and we'll just put, on the end of .dll, we'll put .old, and then hit Enter. Okay? So for me, I've already got, as you can see, I've got 3 already old files here, so I need to add a few more olds, otherwise it'll give me an error. But you click enter and then blah blah blah. If you change the file name extension, the file will become unusable. Yes, that's exactly what you want, because now you don't have an ActionCenter.dll anymore. You only have .old files. See here, old file. So we're going to take this new ActionCenter.dll and move it in. That's as simple as it is. And we're going to do the same for all of these files. So find auth UI.dll, so AU. Here we are, authui.dll, right click, take ownership, right click, rename, and we'll add .old to the end of the file. And then we'll drag this one in. And I want you to repeat that for all of these files. So just go through, take ownership, rename, move the new one in, and then come back when you're finished with all those files. So assuming you're finished with all those files, if you're on 64-bit, you still have one more folder to go through, and that's syswow64. So if we go back into the Windows folder, right underneath System32, we'll have syswow64. Go in there. Also in the integration pack, go into the syswow64 folder, and you'll have a few more files. So again, we're going to do the exact same thing we did in System32. Find explorerframe.dll, right click, take ownership, right click, rename, add .old to the end of the file. Now drag the new one in. That's as simple as it is. Do that for the remaining files. So when you're done with all of these files and you've right click, take ownership, rename, moved it in, then we're ready to proceed. So at this point, once you've moved all those files in, you need to restart your computer. And this is for all of those DLLs to take effect. This is where it's sort of the make or break. If it restarts and works fine, then you can be relieved. It all worked fine. So restart your computer, come back to around 11 minutes on the tutorial, and we'll continue. So assuming you've just restarted your computer, we can go ahead and actually activate the theme. So right click, personalize, and find Chill 3D, or you can use Chill. Either way is fine. I personally use Chill 3D, so click on that. And you can see the theme has changed down. And if we go into start, you can see that, hopefully on your end, it'll look something like this. Nice custom style. So I'm just going to set my wallpaper back. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to replace the start orb down here. You'll notice that I have a custom start orb. And to do this, we're going to replace explorer.exe. And if you know anything about the file system, you'll know that this file is very tricky to replace. There are a few different methods to actually replacing this file. Now, if this method I'm about to show you does not work, do not panic. Look in the description of the tutorial. I've linked a few methods that you can use to replace the file. And if all of that fails, then simply Google how to replace explorer.exe. There are many different methods for many different types of the operating system, and you'll find one that works for you. I'm just going to show you the one that works for me. But again, if it doesn't work, simply look in the description or do some Googling. So what we want to do is we want to, again, just make sure you have all the files in the description downloaded. We want to open Steel Orb, and in here we've got a few different version types. So here we actually have a version of the Steel Orb for the people without Service Pack 1 on Windows 7. However, you should have Service Pack 1 installed. So as I do, Service Pack 1, go in here. So I'm on x64, 64-bit, so go in here, and you'll find explorer.exe. And again, this is kind of tricky, but what you need to do is you need to navigate to your Windows folder. So wherever your Windows is installed, just go to Windows, and then find E, and you'll find explorer.exe. And this is actually, this exe right here is what you're using to even see where your files are. So what we're seeing in front of us, these windows here, and the taskbar, that is explorer.exe. So in some cases, it won't let you overwrite it because it's currently in use. But for me, it's fine. You can right click, take ownership, or sorry, you can't take ownership on the exe file. What you can do is you can right click, rename, and just add 2 or 3.olds, depending on if you have any older versions. Click yes, and as you can see, for me, it went without a hitch. But if at this point you get a cannot rename the files in use, then again look in the description and you'll find your solution. So drag this new explorer.exe in there. And at this point you can right click Start Task Manager, right click on your taskbar and Start Task Manager, and we'll find explorer.exe and we're going to go End Process. And as you can see, everything just disappeared. Go to File, New, and then Explorer or explorer.exe, hit OK, and it'll start explorer.exe again. Now we're back with explorer.exe, and basically at this point, I'll just reorganize these so that we don't get confused. Now that we're back and we have our explorer.exe, your new start orb should appear. So this is your new start orb. Hopefully it appeared, hopefully everything went okay. So the next thing we're actually going to be doing now is we're going to go ahead and change some of the icons in the taskbar. So to give you an example, let's say I have this program here and I pin it into the taskbar. As you can see, it's its own icon. How do we change that? Well, it's quite simple actually. All we need is to download a icon pack, and you can find the link in the description. In my case, I like using the token icon pack. So if you open that up, you see you've either got token dark or token light. I want the light icons for this dark bar. So if we just extract token light, and I recommend extracting this to a place where you don't need to delete it. So my pictures, for example, because as soon as you delete this, all of your icons will, well, disappear. And now what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the icon you want to change, go to the actual program itself here, right click again, properties, and here you'll see a button called change icon. Click this and then click browse, and then if I go to the desktop and I go into token light and I go into token WICO for icon, and let's see if I want to give this a devices like a HTC touch icon. I click open, OK, apply, OK, and you'll notice the icon hasn't changed. Now, the way we can actually change this without restarting our computer is if you go into Tools, and if you go into Step 3 after icon installation, there's a Rebuild Icon Cache. Double click on this, and if we hit this button right here, rebuilds the icon cache. So hit that button, click Yes, and here we have it, and you'll see that the icon is now this HTC phone. So that's how you change the icons. Let me again clean up the desktop just so we don't get confused. So here you can see the icon has changed. And I'm going to go ahead and unpin this. And you can do this exact same thing for all of the icons inside of here. You can right click, properties, change icon. And that's how I got these on the side here. You can change every single icon here. Using the exact same method. If the icon doesn't show up straight away, use this icon rebuilder. So at this point, we can go and delete chill theme, and we don't need tools anymore. We need the icons. So now we don't need a steel orb either. So now we're left with the last part of the tutorial, which is Rainmeter. And this is the exciting part because this is how you get this UI that's really fancy. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my Rainmeter and just shut it down for the purposes of this tutorial. And if we go into our browser and we search for Rainmeter, we go to rainmeter.net, you'll be able to download. So download the latest beta here. At the time of this tutorial, it's 3.0. You know, if it's a year or two later, it might just have changed, but it doesn't matter. Just get the latest beta or a stable release. In this case, we need the beta. We need 3.0 or above. So download this. And it'll download, and I'll just go ahead and run through the installer with you. So run standard installation next, and launch Rainmeter on startup, install, run Rainmeter, click finish. Okay, so at this point it'll look nothing like this. It'll actually look something like, let's see, when you first start it up, it's going to like the default Illustro, I think, like this. And it says welcome to Rainmeter, Illustro getting started, etc. Now what you're going to do is you're going to open the Rainmeter customization folder, and in here, first thing we're going to do is install the essential bar, and that's the bar at the top. So if you go into this folder, you'll notice another essential bar folder. If we actually open the README, you can see here, this is available for sizes 800, 1024, 1280, 1366, 1400, 1440, 1600. All these screen resolutions are available. It pretty much covers nearly all the screen resolutions out there. And there's even an extended bar if you've got even bigger than that or want to go multi-monitor. So if we take this essential bar folder and we just Control-C for copy, we go to Start, Computer, C Drive, Users, and then your username. In my case, it's admin. And then we go to My Documents, and then find our Rainmeter, go in there, and then Skins. And then in here, you'll be able to Control-V, so paste the essential bar. And of course, I'm not going to overwrite it, I already have it installed, but that's where you want to paste it. And also, if you look in the description, I have included a link to my own skins, all of these in here, and that's just loads of the ones I've accumulated over the years, and you can mess around with that if you want to, but for the purpose of this tutorial I want to show you how to work that. I'll just include it for the hell of it. So once you've got the essential bar installed, the next thing we want to do is install this dresses temperature, and that was a temperature meter. So double click on this, click install. Next thing is the elegant clock, double click on this, install, and the Rainify, double click, install. Okay, so now I've got Rainify here, and this is a menu system you can use to customize the different things. You can change the colors, the text size, all that stuff is completely customizable. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm not going to be using that. You can mess around with that. I'm just going to show you how to set it up. So if we go into our little Rainmeter icon here, right click, go to layouts, or sorry, skins, and then go into essential bar. And the first thing we want is the actual bar itself. So go into bar and then choose the width of your monitor. So in my case, it's 1920. And then I'm going to choose bar top. And it will load a bar. And what we can do is just put it at the top of your monitor. And if you're unsure of your screen resolution, right click, screen resolution. It'll tell you right here, 1920 by 1200. So in my case, it's 1920. So now we've got the bar. What we can do is, we obviously don't want to be able to drag this around. We can right click on it and then go to settings and click draggable. That way we can't drag it. Also, you can right click settings, transparency, and I'll just make it 40% transparent. So it's got some nice transparency if we have anything beneath it. Okay, so now let's start adding stuff to our bar. So if we again go into our Rainmeter, right click, and we can go to skins, essential bar, and we'll add a bandwidth bar, and it'll appear in the top right. All of the stuff you add, it'll appear in the top right of your screen here, so up here, and you can drag it around and do whatever you want. So the idea here is that you want to customize this just the way you like it. So you want to set up all of the different things, and actually this is hidden behind, so you can actually go back and go to settings, make it draggable again. While you're customizing this, it's probably a good idea to be able to click below it or beneath it. So just grab your stuff, and these have really tricky click spots, so you got to find that. There you go, see, right here on the 0, you can grab it, but it's really tricky to actually grab the click spot of the text and the thing. So you want to continue customizing your bar. Right click, skins, essential bar, for example a clock, and it'll appear in the top right here. We can put that. So I'm going to just cut the video once I've got this bar customized, and so just play around with this until you've got the customizable bar the way you want it, and then I'll cut back once I've sort of made my own layout. Before I do though, a very important thing is to make the black bar at the top actually clickable, so you can click through it. Otherwise you won't be able to grab these things beneath it. So if I just quickly go into skins, essential bar, and then the bar, and I load a new bar just to show you. If I just grab a small bar, what you want to do with your bar is move it into position and right click, settings, and then click through once you're positioned it correctly, and that'll allow you to select the things beneath it. So I'll just finish customizing and then I'll cut back. Alright, so I'm back and I've just finished customizing my top bar here, pretty much as far as I'm wanting to go. And what you can do is you can right click on each of these. Again, the click spot is not the best, but if you keep right clicking, you'll find the eventual click spot for the thing you're trying to click. So once you do find the click spot, which I appear to be, here we go, then you can, tweak the settings, draggable, click through, and all of that. Once you're done pretty much with this bar, you can start saving it, but we've got more stuff to add. So if you go into Rainmeter again, right click, we go into skins, we're going to find the nice little temperature meter we had up. So if we go to dresser's temperature, you can either choose black or you can have the white one. In my case it was black, so we're going to take that and we're going to move it just roughly where we want it. And I can tell you right now, it's not 18 centigrade here in Oslo. So if you right click on this, go to settings, and first of all, I want to make it a bit transparent. Then right click again, go to variants or edit skin, sorry. And here you can see we've got the location code GMXX0080. And to find your own location code, simply go to weather.com and search for your area. So in my case, I will be searching for Oslo, Norway. And let's see, Oslo, Norway. And here at the top in the URL, you can actually get your weather code. This is the part you want to copy, NOx 0029. Do not copy after the colon. Just copy before or after, after the plus and before the colon. Copy, and we'll put that in right there. And if we click save, we right click and then refresh skin. And it'll come back as 11. And that's the correct temperature. And then now we're going to add the elements on the right hand side, which was what we installed Rainify for. So right click on Rainmeter, skins, and we're going to Rainify, and we can choose a bunch of different stuff. I'll just add, let's see, I will add network, and then all you need to do is take the network and drag it over to where you want. And then we can go in again to skins, Rainify, and this is completely up to you. You can add a slideshow, which is what I had, and you can customize where the slideshow comes from with the little spanner. So that's where you can set which ones it scrolls through. And you can just keep piling on and adding whatever you want from the Rainify menu. So that pretty much covers it. Just go ahead and add one more element for you, probably a hard drive. Yeah, let's add one disk here. So that pretty much covers it. You can tune the settings, and for each of these you can right click, and there is actual edit skin. You can really get into the nitty gritty stuff and the specifics. But that was pretty much the tutorial, and I really hope it's taught you something. I really hope it was a step up from version 1, and I hope that everything works correctly now. For those of you who've been having problems with version 1, I hope this pretty much fixes it for you. If you have been watching this whole time, I applaud you, and you've probably come out on top, as they say, with an amazing Windows 7 theme. If you did like the video, please do like it, subscribe for more content like this. This is the only real benefit I get, and the more people who like and subscribe, the more I can spread this kind of stuff too. I don't earn any from it, so that is pretty much all I ask. If you do like it, then please do like the video. So again, my name is Ronald Griffin for artificialanimation.com, and I'll see you next time.